All right, Transformers, welcome to today's Transformational Vitamin. I hope you guys are going to be joining us. You followed us yesterday. We began so excited, as always, because you guys are excited. So we'll jump right in for this week's Transformational Vitamin. If you're going to be joining us this evening, this is Angelo Reynolds Sr., that is, and this is the Transformers Academy. And so every week, you guys know we come excited because you guys come excited. We got some good questions and some comments and some likes and all those things about this week's topic, particularly that of parenting your transitioning teen, something that I felt was needed. I have teenagers as well. And so I know the process of transition for our young folks can be such a daunting task. And so if you're a parent and you have a teenager, I welcome you to come aboard, because if you can look at the picture there and see the head scratching and the nails biting, that is probably me and my wife in both instances. But look there in terms of this whole process of transition, because it is a difficult task. It's a difficult transition. We're talking about the ages of 12-ish, 13, till about 18, 19, really 17, 18, where they really begin to have a lot of issues surrounding this transition. And so it's not only a transition for the teen, but it's also a transition for the parents. So if you're on the air, welcome. Parents, if you're on the air, because this is a broadcast this week about the transitioning for both. Okay. All right. So let's get right into it. How do you feel? Lost, confused, unclear, disoriented, bewildered, perplexed, unsure, lost, all those things that come with parenting or the transition phase. And so if you have a young person and they're going through the transition as mine are, you know it's just a difficult task. We'll go right into some things that we find why these things may be difficult. And so why is this transition so difficult? Well, number one, the ups and downs, particularly those of the hormonal and emotional changes that come along with that. 80% of their influences are from peers. We're going to talk more about that. Our kids take more risks today. They're less afraid of the consequences, and they're larger risk takers than we were when we were growing up. Social media is a large part of their outlook and perception on life. So it becomes more difficult, obviously, from times in which parents were not engaged in social media, now are saturated with the whole social media. And then a lot of times parents we're used to doing things in an obsolete and old-fashioned manner. But it's confusing. And so this week we want to make sure that we can give you some things that you can do. What can we do? We'll talk about those things. What can you do if your teenager is in transition? And as parents, these are things that, there's 3 things there I highlighted, but there's about 6 or 7 things there that I want you to take note of in terms of what you can do as a parent in terms of this difficult process. So hopefully you write these things down. But I'm just going to highlight 3 there. You can go back and take a look at these. Some of the things that have worked thus far with my wife and I. Number one, this is a huge one. Be a parent, not their friend or peer. All too many times when I present presentations to school districts and parents and so forth, I find that parents' biggest gripe or issue has to do with their camaraderie, if you will, with their teen. In other words, they're more of a peer or friend than they are a parent. And so that's a big no-no, particularly if you're going to lead the way in terms of transition, because as you all know, the transition is about leadership. It's about leading the way. And so we can't lead our children if we're going to be their friends, okay, or foes or peers. Okay, number 3, these are highlighted areas. Communicate, 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 communicate. Ask questions, ask questions. We're in a time where there's so much going on, a lot more going on than we can even imagine. But just a daily or weekly check-in, finding out how school is, finding out how things are going on the bus, with their teachers, with their friends, if they're out in the communities. All those things are very important in terms of communicate. If they don't communicate, you won't know. No communications means lack of information. And so if we can't communicate, at least ask those questions and begin to seek out those things. will find that that's a difficult process. Number 3, highlighted there, check and know their passwords to their phones, social media, and the friends that they hang with. So important. We just really started doing this, I guess, maybe about a year ago. Really finding out, going in and check in some of the things that they're communicating about, their passwords, going in and checking their phones, and finding what kind of dialogue that they may be having with people. If they've been bullied, if they're being harassed, if they're talking about things that they don't even know, maybe criminal activity, but they are unaware because this cyber texting and media piece that we're dealing with now is unclear, and it's new for a lot of people, including law enforcement. So those are some things there. Okay. So if you're on the air, you have questions, these things will be posted, and hopefully you guys will go back. But my goal this week was to make sure that maybe I can relieve some of the tension that you and your parents or your teens may be dealing with, because although it's a difficult process, it's not unbearable. And when we think about the process of transitioning, we have to find and understand that it is temporary. It doesn't last forever. And it's a process of going from one place to the next. And so it can be confusing. It can be daunting, perplexed, lost, unsure. And if we don't have enough structure, we'll find ourselves in the process becoming more and more difficult because we're not understanding some of the things that they're dealing with. But we can do something about it. We will do something. And so I'm hoping that you guys would come back on the air with us, do a Q&A. We'll come back on the air. In the morning, we start out with Instagram. But listen, go to DrAngeloReynolds.com where you get a chance to see all the webinars and things that we do. We post this on YouTube, so you get a chance to go and see this posted on YouTube. Take some notes of these things. It's probably some things that you guys are already doing with your children, I'm sure, but there's always room for improvement. I'm always open for suggestions and things that other parents may be doing. So I like to turn this maybe tomorrow night into a Q&A. If we can have people to come on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back on the air for this week's Transformation Surviving of parenting tips for your transitioning teen, the daunting task of finding the remedy and the ingredients for a successful transition. That's what this week is about. I'm Dr. Angelo Reynolds, Senior, that is. You guys have been following me on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those places. Go to DrAngeloReynolds.com where you'll also see all these things posted for your reference, posted for your study, and posted hopefully tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys on the air. Okay. If you have specific questions that you don't necessarily want to ask on the air, just send me an email. Go to DrAngeloReynolds.com. Send me an email. We'll get to you as promptly as possible. And otherwise, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.